Welcome back. In the previous step, we defined the structure of our request. We said this is how our request would look like. Now, we would want to create the structure of our response. So we would want to define an XSD for our response as well. So let's get started. So I'll copy the request and I would want to call this response. The good thing is there's an error already pointing out because there are two elements with the same name now. What I would want is actually here, if you look at our response, there is another element with a definition inside it. So there is a course details with ID, name, and description. What I would do is I'll create a complex type for this separately so that I can reuse it in other responses as well. I'll create a complex type. So I'll say element name is equal to course details. Course details, I'll not say the definition in here. The type is, I need to use the namespace of this specific thing. So the namespace of ours is TNS here. So TNS, I would want to define a new type called course details. Now it says, it would give me an error because it says course details is not defined in here. So I'll go ahead and define a complex type in here. So I'll say complex type name is equal to, I don't need to use the namespace. I can just say course details. That's it. So what we are doing here is we would want to create a separate definition for course details so that tomorrow, let's say at a future time, you're creating another response. So let's say this is a response for get all course details response, where we would want to reuse the definition of course details. By creating a separate complex type, we can reuse the definition of whatever we have created. So now, whatever is defined in the course details applies to get all course details response as well as get course details response. What we have done until now is very simple, right? So we copied get course details request, created get course details response. Inside that, we said we want to have an element called course details because that's how we defined our response, course details. And the course details structure, I said I don't want to say integer or something. I would want to define a structure of my own. So I'm saying TNS course details. I'm defining the complex type course details in here. Let's go ahead and define what would be inside the course details. What would be inside the course details? It would be a sequence, right? So it's a sequence of elements. The first one we would want is name is equal to ID. And what is the type of the ID? It's integer. That's the first one, right? You can, instead of creating an element slash element like this, I can kind of terminate the node by just saying this syntax. So this is kind of a shortcut for the slash element. So instead of doing the whole thing, you can just say slash. So now I would actually copy this. The next elements I would want to define in the response, what are they? Name and description. I would want to have a name. However, the type of the name is string, right? Not a type, so string. And the last one is description, and the type of description is also string. So now I have defined the structure of the response as well. In the response XML, what we want to do? We would want to add the definition of a schema. Before that, I would want to add the schema namespace. So control space, I add the schema namespace, and then I add the schema location in. For schema location, I would need to say the namespace, that's first. So namespace is this. So now, where is this location? The location is, you would see that there are no errors. Let's name one. What does it say? Invalid content. So it's saying name, you should have name. I'm removing the name. I'm getting an error. It's saying, okay, there should be an element called name before that. You can see how the XSD really helps us in validating the structure of an XML. This XSD will be able to help us in communicating with our customers how we would want the request and how they can expect the response back. Congratulations! If this is the first XSD you have created, then you have done a lot of good work. Until the next step, bye-bye.